Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking a philosophy that completely, and I mean completely, shatters the modern playbook. Think about it. Society today constantly tells us to hustle farther, to seize control, to optimize every single minute of our day, and to basically force our way to success. But what if the actual secret to a fulfilling, effective life is the exact opposite? Today we're exploring the ancient, deeply paradoxical wisdom of the Tao Te King, a 2,500-year-old text that argues true power comes not from grasping harder, but from letting go. Okay, let's dive right into this.
It's a simple question, but it really hits hard. Do you think you can improve the world? In our high-stress, hyper-connected lives, our immediate impulse is always to fix things, to micromanage, to control every little detail. We tend to think that if we just apply enough force or cleverness, we can bend reality to our will. But the presumed author of this text, Lao Tse, poses this exact question to challenge that whole arrogant mindset.
And here is Lao Tse's beautifully disruptive answer. He states it so bluntly. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to force it, you'll only destroy it. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. We are dealing with a philosophy where harmony and success are achieved by stepping back. It's a radical paradox, right? Achieving more by intentionally doing less. All right, moving on to Section 1, the Bible of Taoism.
To truly grasp this philosophy, we first need to understand what this ancient foundational document actually is. The Tao Te King isn't some massive, dense encyclopedia. Actually, it's the exact opposite. It consists of just 81 brief sections. The first part lays out philosophical principles, and the second deals with practical applications. But here's the catch. Lao Tse is deeply skeptical of absolute knowledge. He doesn't just hand you strict dogmatic rules or commandments. Instead, the text offers poetic riddles, vague metaphors, and logical conclusions. It's a text designed not to be skimmed, but to be digested slowly over a lifetime, giving you fresh food for thought depending on exactly where you are in your own life.
Section 2. What is the Tao?
This brings us to the core mystery of the whole text. What exactly is the Tao? Well, the word is often translated as the way. It's the unnameable origin of all existence and the absolute unity of opposites. Lao Tse uses a brilliant metaphor to help us wrap our heads around it. Imagine a delightfully empty vessel, like a bowl. You can keep scooping out of it endlessly, yet it's literally never exhausted. It's invisible, inaudible, and intangible, yet it is the absolute rock-solid foundation that permeates all natural order.
Now, the inherent irony here is perfectly illustrated right at the beginning of the text. The way that can be spoken of is not the eternal way. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Think about that. The text spends thousands of words talking about something that it immediately claims defies all human labels and categorization. It's a direct critique of our human obsession with having concrete knowledge for everything. You can't pin the Tao down. You can really only align yourself with its rhythm.
Section 3. The power of non-action.
So how exactly do we align with it? Let's take a breath and slow down for a second here. To understand the concept of Wu Wei, or the power of non-action, the text draws a really sharp contrast between the way of heaven and the way of men. The way of heaven, which is the natural order, always seeks balance. It takes from where there's too much and gives to where there's too little. Human society, however, does the exact opposite. We operate through endless, stressful accumulation. We hoard wealth, and those with a lot take from those with less. Following the Tao means stepping off that endless treadmill of artificial desires. It means practicing non-action, which doesn't mean sitting around lazily, but rather acting naturally, without forcing outcomes, and avoiding unnecessary meddling.
To practice this non-action and truly follow the way, Lao Tse outlines 3 essential treasures you absolutely must guard. They are compassion, frugality, and the deliberate renunciation of fame and status. He argues that only by caring for others can you be truly courageous. Only by being frugal can you be truly generous. And only by giving up that desperate, exhausting climb for public fame can you actually become a quiet, effective guide for other people.
If this still sounds a bit too abstract, Lao Tse provides an incredibly concrete image to help us out. Water. Think about water for a second. It's incredibly soft, yielding, and highly adaptable. It always seeks the lowest point, a place our modern egos absolutely despise, right? Yet given enough time, water is uniquely capable of cutting right through solid rock. The rigid and hard represents death and breaking, while the soft and adaptable represents life and prevailing. Just like water, a person who is flexible and yields will ultimately overcome whatever is rigid.
Section 4. The wise ruler.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this passive philosophy sounds great for a monk living on a mountain, but how on earth does it apply to the real world? Well, it fundamentally transforms our understanding of leadership and power. Lao Tzu actually had a surprisingly fierce, anti-authoritarian streak in him. Listen to this condemnation of corrupt leaders. The palace is full of treasures, weeds run riot in the fields, and the granaries are empty, but the lords wear magnificent clothes. This is surely not the way. He basically equates rulers who hoard wealth while their people starve to nothing more than common robbers.
So, what does actual good leadership look like? A wise ruler's checklist is entirely counterintuitive. They have to cultivate extreme humility, always putting themselves last. They avoid direct competition, because by not competing, no one can compete with them. Most importantly, they reject over-regulating the populace. The text argues that a true leader should step back, stay silent, and absolutely not micromanage. When a real leader is finished with their work, the people won't praise the leader. They'll simply say, "We did it ourselves."
Section 5. Pacifism and Society.
This deep suspicion of state intervention naturally bleeds into the text's most passionate theme. Usually, the Tao Te King is super vague and open to interpretation, right? But when it comes to war, Lao Tse is fiercely direct. He declares flat out that weapons are instruments of evil. He insists that violence should only ever be an absolute last resort. And even if you are forced to fight and you happen to win, you should never celebrate it. Victory in battle brings death, and therefore it should be treated exactly like a funeral.
This pacifism extends inward, too, to how a society is actually governed. The text argues that imposing strict laws and prohibitions actually creates poverty. Think about it. When you constantly show people things they can't have, you create artificial desires, which in turn breeds crime. And what happens when the state responds to that crime with harsh punishments? The society just becomes far more restless and deceitful. Lao Tzu even takes aim at the ultimate state punishment, the death penalty. He argues that taking a life is the job of natural forces, not the state. For a government to utilize the death penalty is an arrogant, deeply unnatural overreach of its power.
All right, Section 6, History and Eternal Legacy.
Let's pick up the pace a bit here, because we really need to look at the turbulent history that birthed this incredibly peaceful philosophy. The Tao Te King wasn't written in some quiet, peaceful vacuum. Not at all. China was going through a massive, totally chaotic transformation. The old feudal system was completely collapsing. At one point, there were 170 different kingdoms constantly at war, which eventually consolidated down to 7. It was a time of extreme violence and societal upheaval. Thinkers were desperately searching for universal values just to restore some semblance of peace. You had Confucius, who tried to fix things with strict societal rules, ethics, and worldly duties, and then, likely compiled around the 4th century BC, you have the Tao Te King, offering the exact opposite approach. It proposed finding peace by stepping away from the rules and returning to the natural flow.
This radical contrast is exactly why the text has survived, and why its legacy is truly massive today. It formed the basis of the Taoist religion, sure, but its influence went worldwide. It heavily shaped Chan Buddhism, which we know today as Zen, with its deep focus on silence and direct experience. Because of its anti-authoritarian tone, it has always appealed to outsiders. Incredibly, quotes from Lao Tse were even used in the 20th century by the White Rose, the famous student resistance group fighting against the Nazis in Germany. Modern thinkers like Bertolt Brecht and Elias Canetti also drew deep inspiration from it.
Which brings us to a final challenge for you today. The Tao Te King frequently uses this wonderful metaphor of the unbehauene Holzklotz, the uncarved block of wood. It represents pure potential, simplicity, and living without the constant need to shape yourself into something society demands. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Are you exhausting yourself chasing false ornaments, status, and artificial desires? Or can you find a way to let go of the need to constantly control your life, step back, and embrace the simple, natural power of the uncarved block? It's a profound thought to carry with you today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.